Hello, hello. Hey, Doc, how you doing?
I am well. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
Absolutely. I'm doing okay. I had to check on you, Doc, because you know what? Um, today's topic, um, doing my study and research, some things made me think about you a lot more because you are a superhero therapist. You know, understand?
Uh-oh.
All the other superheroes come to you. You're the you're someone's favorite therapist. That's
And,
how I would describe you.
and that.
And so it gave me a little bit more insight on things you have to do. So we got to check on you because when you're always helping people with their cup, we got to worry about your cup too. That it became glaringly clear to me. So yeah, yeah. Shout outs to Mr. JK. I was like, oh, okay, this is deep. But anyway, with that being said, hey, everybody, welcome to Perspective. And the premise of our show is found right there in the name, Perspective. This is a safe place. This is a safe tree, if you will, to have open discussions about any and every topic, I would say, to try to just get enlightenment. And we understand that when we have different opinions, different insights, different lived experiences, different perspectives about life, that can kind of be arduous and kind of cause disconnect with individuals. But what we've learned is that just having different opinions, different points of views, different perspectives, lived experiences does not render your position wrong or right, or a countering our idea wrong or right. It simply means they're different. And when we can have discussions about our differences, it actually brings us closer together. We can find common ground in that, and and we usually find out that we're all headed to the same place. We just might be taking different avenues to do that. And once we can come together and understand that, that brings us closer together as individuals, which also brings us close together as a community, and ultimately will spread out and make us better as wholly across the world. And so that is what we aim to do here on Perspective. And with that being said, I will introduce myself. I am Eric Butler, aka the Intellect, aka Cullen Eight, because I'm the biggest diamond ever found on land. I'm 3,000 plus carats. I had to say that part because it's down on the bottom. AKA the Atlantic, because I'm cold, deep, and choppy, and ain't nothing nobody can do about it. Hey, my career and background has been in talent acquisition, which has kind of afforded me the opportunity to kind of expand out, talk to a lot of people, which kind of rendered into doing some career coaching. And when you do that, you end up kind of giving people insights that they have rendered to me has been very helpful and insightful. It expanded me an opportunity to sit on the advisory board of the Empower series, which is a financial literacy nonprofit, and has also put me in the community to help in that capacity and way. And ultimately, that exposure and networking has led me to sit in this seat and be a co-host on the this podcast, Perspective, and has linked me up with I would say a divinely appointed partner. And with that being said, I'm going to pass the mic over to that partner and allow them to introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Latoya. I am a licensed professional counselor. Let's see. So, Latoya, aka Chef Jeff's wife, aka them kids' mama. I am
AKA Doc. And as far as I'm concerned, y'all hear me call her Doc. That's what I call her.
I'm a licensed professional counselor. You can learn more about me at latoyathetherapist.com. I am an author. I also have a audio only podcast called Say More About That, where I share mental health, motivation, marriage tips. It's on everything. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the things. I think that's it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If they look you up, they're definitely going to find
Yeah,
you.
follow me on Instagram or something.
Yeah, and it's something about the guide to beating the side chick.
So
Did I
that's
get
my
the
book.
title?
I'm
Yeah,
the wife's guide to beating the side chick is
the
the title
wife's
of my
guide.
book that I wrote about. Let's see, my middle is 9, so maybe 7 years ago.
Hmm. And you know what's funny? It's universal and applicable to this day. That's how I know it's
It really
poignant.
is because I just had somebody buy it and like message me and say like how helpful it was, and I thought that that was sweet. So that was very exciting time to know that like someone bought my book and someone found it helpful, and like I had did like a updated version of it. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Keep it coming, Doc. Keep it coming. So now y'all can see. And I think we might have froze up there a little bit, but y'all can see why, man, I'm thankful. My co-host is my co-host. I've learned a lot from them and better for it. So with that being said, the topic of the evening, I will say this. I think it's a very important one. I think it can be, powerful and poignant. And to our viewers, I, hit the like button, subscribe, all those good things. But most importantly, I do want you to feel free and comfortable with commenting in the comment section. Definitely share your insights, your feedback, whatever your response or feelings are about what you hear or what you maybe can contribute. One thing that I've learned over my time is that you just sharing your knowledge, your perspective, your opinion, your lived experiences many times can be helpful and enlightening to others. And those that may not say much, but they listen, and you can give them some relief even when you don't even know it. So we all have power in that way. We all have contributions we can add to others. So we definitely encourage you to do that and not shy away. If you don't want to say too much, hey, just put the city that you're from, put three dots, say something, let us know. Boom, there we go. Alexis Butler says, "Welcome to the comment section." Hey, that's my baby bird.
Hey.
One of my favorite people. Hey, Mr. J. Gilliard. See, I can't say BFF because somebody else just hogged that and done that, but that's my partner right there. That's my ace. You know what I'm saying? I didn't had to. I didn't been to the holy box. I've had the
So the Holy Box will actually be out this weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
salmon. I've had I've had the fried fish. I've had the shrimp and grits. So you know what I'm saying. I got points. I got points in that area. Anyway, and um, Doc said she's Jeff Chef's wife. Y'all see that J in front of the Gilead right there? Yeah, that stands for Jeff right there. So y'all know who that is. He says, laughing out like, yes, you can say BFF. No, man, I'm just, I feel funny about it. I don't want to step on no toes. Mr. Byron Handspot, aka B Hand, aka Jesus is my fullback. Mr. Byron Handspot, I'm gonna take a moment, still a moment before we get in the topic, and just give him his flowers. That is my teammate, my brother. Um, he's kept me, from myself through my college days. I could be a little bit rough around the edges, and it was only one person who could slow me down or make me stop or make me chill, and it was Mr. Byron Hans. But he was look him up, Google him. He's somebody you just Google him. He's also the newly appointed pastor of Faithful Missionary Baptist Church over on Blue Bonnet, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely doing great work in the community, making an impact. And I'll say it out loud. Many people know that, I really won't attend church houses. It's only one I'll go to, and it's his, and it's because of him. He's someone I've been able to see because a lot of pastors get a lot of a bad rap, and some deservingly, right? But this is someone who, when I say integrity, Bone, there's no other like that. I've seen him with my own eyes go through trials, tribulations, and stick to his morals, his values, his beliefs, his principles. It's a quality human being right there. So anybody who knows him, may be looking for one, hey, Google him in. Hit that like button if on whatever platform you're on. And that's a major thing that he on there because this is not what he does. He's somewhere helping somebody somewhere all the time. So I'm honored that he attended. With that being said, the title, trauma, the silent enemy. And I thought it was poignant to put the silent enemy. And so Doc is a licensed counselor and experienced with helping people in many different areas. So this will be very interesting to let her unpack. So I'll kind of be, throwing up the discs and she'll be shooting them down. And that's kind of how we'll go. So definitely don't shy away from chiming in the comments, asking questions, and getting some enlightenment in that regard.
But
So
before we do that, hold
yeah,
on.
let's do that,
Before we
Doc.
do
Yeah.
that, let me do my disclaimer. While I am so excited that all of y'all are here, and I hope that you will get in the comment section and leave your comments and ask your questions, it is very important to remember this. I am a therapist, not your therapist, unless we have paperwork and a payment method in place. Also, Eric and I will be speaking from our education, our experiences, conversations we've had, things like that. We are not talking about our current personal life situation. Unless we say, currently, this is what I'm dealing with. We are not talking about that. No one called us before the show and told us about your trauma. These will just be examples that come off the top of our heads. If you need a counselor, feel free to email me. If I can't be your counselor, I can get you in the right direction. Okay. You don't have to suffer in silence. It is very important that I also give the trigger warning of like, we will be saying the word trauma. We will be talking about the word trauma. So if you need to take care of yourself, please do that. And then also, we recognize that your cousin, sister's homegirl, best friend had the same situation and it worked out well for her. We're actually not talking about her. We're talking about things from a more general perspective. Okay. So I just want to give
Indeed.
that disclaimer.
Thank you, Doc. Because yeah, some toes are going to be stepped on, and maybe some examples that are used or could be similar. And yeah, it'll be that type of night. So, Doc, let's, as you always say, wait a minute, let's define that.
Because
So,
y'all know how I feel about it. I feel like before you really start talking about something, everybody has to be on the same page. Because I can't think trauma means one thing, you think trauma means something else, the viewers think it means something else. So, for the sake of this conversation, we are talking about trauma from a mental health perspective. We are talking about trauma. And when we're saying trauma, we're defining it as a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. During this experience, the person feels like their life is being threatened and it's going to impact their ability to cope. So this can look like a car accident, being in war, being sexually assaulted, witnessing violence, witnessing domestic violence. When we're saying trauma, we are talking about a deeply disturbing experience. Okay, I think that's very important. And then let me just give y'all a little caveat. So, us clinicians, we say big T trauma and little t trauma. Little t trauma is something that happened to you, and on an individual level, it may feel like a trauma, but when you look at the world, everybody doesn't feel that way. So, like a breakup could be traumatic for some people and not traumatic for other people. Moving or relocating could be traumatic for some people and not traumatic for other people. That would be a little t trauma. A big T trauma is something that the masses are going to consider a trauma. So this is like sexual assault, being robbed at gunpoint, being in a war, a car crash where you thought you were going to die, something like that. So when everybody says trauma, big T trauma. When it just happened to you and maybe it's a trauma, maybe it's not, little t trauma, because your feelings are valid. And if you say it's a trauma, who are we to say that it's not? But we do get to say that it's lowercase. All right.
man, that was a good breakdown, Doc, because I think that happens in many cases because there are mindsets where phrases like "pull yourself up by your bootstraps," "stop making excuses," "suck it up," "rub some tussin on it." Those type of things come to mind.
Not tough.
Yeah, rub some tussin on it. Some say rub some dirt on it and keep on going. Where you do have to show some resiliency and fortitude in times. There are traumas that happen to you individually, and you see it as a trauma, and it affects you, and no one else may understand that because everything is not revealed to everyone. It's not experienced the same by everyone. No tussin, right? Um,
I always
And
hate when
so,
people say pull yourself up by your bootstraps, because what if I don't have boots?
boots. And then I
What
got
we
some
gonna
boots,
do?
but I ain't got no straps. And then people
What
had
if I don't
taken
have
my straps.
shoes?
But man, let me come on, man. I get into that one. But anyway, so Doc, and I think we'll agree on this one, and it's been pondering on me. So, who suffers from trauma?
Everybody,
Boom,
everybody,
everybody.
everybody.
Even though I would say, even those that think that they don't suffer from trauma.
It's so wild because I saw a woman earlier this week, and she was like, I said, "Oh, do you have a trauma history?" And she was like, "No." So we kept talking, kept talking. Her home had been broken into while she was in it. And I said, "Hold on. That's not trauma." She was like, "No, we made it." Oh, okay. It was my first time meeting her, so I wasn't gonna be like, "Girl, that's traumatic." So I just said, "Okay." So even if you don't identify the thing as trauma, everybody suffers from trauma.
Right, right. And they may just have real good coping skills in that regard. You know what I mean? That can
Or
happen.
they may just have that mindset that so many people have of like, put you still got to keep going, because what's the alternative? Pull your bootstraps on, or like, tough titty said the
Or
kitty, or
forge
whatever
through.
people keep
Yeah,
saying. Yeah.
right, right. Yeah, but the milk's still good. I had to go and finish that one. I wouldn't have been good all day. Mr. J. Gill, you said boots don't come with straps though.
I'm sick of him.
I got you. Well, your shoelaces, man, your tennis shoes, Um, yeah, I would say that. And I think another point to make on that, even those that may cope well, or they may not see it as that. And I think trauma can become, if it's the norm for you, it's just you get lost in it. You don't even understand how traumatized you are, because being in um a hyper vigilant nature all the time has been your lived experience. It's been what you've been in, so that's normal to you, and you don't even know the damage that it may be doing to you.
Yeah, that's why I think it's important to interact with people outside of your norm. I think if you only talk to the people who stay on your block or live in your family or whatever, then you don't have any exposure to what's new, right? Like you don't have any exposure to what's different. And so if you grow up in a situation where every day is like a fight to survive and you're always in survival mode, then you don't even realize that there's life outside of that. So I think it's always important to get exposure to like different people and different situations, just so you can kind of do like a self check, like an awareness, like, oh, these people are breathing so freely and I'm holding my breath. Why is that? You know?
Gotcha. So Doc, you kind of hit, I think, yes, in our conversation we kind of, I'll do a deep dive. This stuff you be knowing like the back of your hand, me not so much. And so talking about the different types of psychological trauma, I think we covered the acute trauma, chronic trauma, which is repeated prolonged exposure to a highly stressful event. And then I think this last comment really kind of touched on complex trauma, which is like exposure to varied and multiple traumatic events, something invasive, interpersonal nature, like childhood abuse and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
But one that I came across, I definitely wanted to throw it on your plate and see what you could cook up. But there was a type of trauma called secondary or
Mm-hmm.
vicarious trauma, which
Mm-hmm.
I got some thoughts on, but I definitely wanted to let you unload that wagon. And it's trauma experienced indirectly
Right.
through the exposure to the trauma of others, like
So
healthcare
like what I
workers
do every day.
and therapists and counselors. Yes.
So wow. Yeah, so vicarious trauma is a real thing. I think that we all experience it on some level if you keep up with the news. So do you remember the
Mm.
school shooting in, I think it's called Uvalde? I may be pronouncing it
Yes.
wrong. But you
Yep.
remember
No,
that?
you did. You
That was
got it.
very, very traumatic. I think, and I've been a therapist for so long, I'm not going to age myself, but I think the first time I actually experienced vicarious trauma was when Sandra Bland died. Like I could not get out of the bed. Um,
Mm.
And that's when I realized, like, oh, this is a real thing. And so some people would say it's a combination of like being a therapist and then seeing this thing on the news and then everything just caught up with me. But I would say I would say it was directly related to her. And so vicarious trauma is a real thing. That's why you got to be careful what you intake. Like, I don't watch a lot of news because it's too much. It is too much.
I
Um,
get it. I get that.
my clients who suffer or have survived domestic violence, I encouraged all of them to mute the words Diddy and Cassie on their social media so they didn't have to see the video,
Got
because
you.
that's traumatic and that's going to take you back to a situation that you've already been through. You know what I mean? So you got to be careful what you're intaking and what you're doing. And then if you happen to be a person who's like in healthcare or you're a therapist and like it is my job to intake other people's trauma, like that's how I feed my family, you got to make sure that you have an outlet or somewhere to put that.
Right. Well, I mean, dude, and say more about that. So when I couldn't help it. I had to, Doc. I had to. But when, like, I guess would it come down to like what your personal likes are, or are there any tips that you can give individuals? Because that was a great tip. Hey, go in, block certain tags within your social media. If you come to find out that are not healthy,
Mm-hmm.
then go in and really
Yeah.
try to I would say carve up your algorithm. Start thumbs down things that you don't like so it don't come up as often.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a great point to make, and a tool for individuals to use. Alexis Butler says, yeah, it will trigger. Facts, Doc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure did.
um
I think that social media
Go
is a
ahead, Doc.
wonderful place, right? Like, I spend a ton of time there. I'm there. Like, I love it. I like content creating. I think it is a wonderful place, but I think it's wonderful because I took time to curate what I wanted to see. And so, like, people's account who makes me feel some type of way, A, shows me that there's more work to do, but then B, get muted. I'm not going to continue to look
Mm,
at your page and trigger myself. Like, that's crazy. Why would I do that? So I think that making sure that you take more control over what you're intaking is also a really good coping skill, because when you talk about trauma, what trauma does is it takes away your sense of safety. So when you're in your house scrolling your phone, you safe, right? Well, no, because now you got Diddy dragging this girl and abusing her. So no, you're not safe, and now you're triggered and you're in your home. But in order to take back your safety, go ahead and mute those words. Go ahead and curate your feed. Unfollow people. And when those little ads pop up that say like, "Did you like this?" Say no, so they can stop showing up.
right,
Take more
right.
control, because we're not getting away from social media. Like, it is a thing, and whether they block that other app or not, social media is here to stay. So do your best to curate something that's not as triggering for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and I would couple that, Will, with seeking assistance. Getting a counselor or therapist to help you work through those things. So if you combine those, you can make some really, really strong and good headway. Toward, and I don't want to just frivolously use the word healing, but getting into a place where you can be whole and not in a constant state of. This is a great segue into the effects of psychological trauma. And also it can be a sign, which I think is important to talk about, because there's many individuals who do, as you pointed out in your example, who may have experienced trauma but don't recognize that
Right.
either. So emotional and psychological effects, and I'm going to go through a few of them, Doc. You definitely, do your thing, do your ginsuing. So some of the
Hold on
effects and
before you
signs.
go through them. Hold on
Mhm.
before you go through them. Hit the comment.
All right, Jeff Short said, "Good morning, guys. Good
Hello, sir.
morning." And yeah,
Hi.
that's is it
Welcome
Pastor
back.
Short
It
or
is.
Minister Short?
It
Yeah, because
is.
there's a
Yeah.
difference. I learned there's a difference between minister and pastor, but I think he's associate
What?
pastor. Yeah, yeah, he's
Well, we're
associate
happy to
pastor.
have you, sir.
I
How about we?
always glad you're here, man. Thank you, thank you. Um, so talking about the effects
Psychological
and,
effects. Go
and
ahead.
and signs, emotional and psychological effects would be anxiety and
Mhm.
fear, where it's like
Mhm.
persistent worry, panic attacks, generalized anxiety, um,
Mhm.
depression, prolonged sadness, loss of interest, feelings of hopelessness, and then
Mhm.
that cliche, well talked about post traumatic stress disorder or PTSD,
Mhm.
flashbacks, and I think we should, I would love to get more insight on that from you, Doc. Flashbacks, nightmares, severe anxiety, and hypervigilance. And then a key one, emotional numbness, which is the inability to feel joy or connect emotionally with others. And then
Mhm.
guilt and shame,
Mhm.
self blame, feeling unworthy or embarrassed.
Mhm.
So, Doc,
Yeah,
that
all of
post
those.
traumatic stress disorder.
All of
Um,
those are accurate. What I don't think I heard you talk about though was the physical side effects, because there can be unexplained like body aches, can be muscle tension, migraines, headaches, and stuff like that that comes from experiencing a trauma. And then
yeah,
after the trauma, experiencing these like acute stress disorders or chronic stress disorders.
man, I just want to say, y'all, my co host is the co host of co host, and she's so cold in her space. Y'all think I just be saying that? Because I did the research. She just popped these off on top of her head. Boom, 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 boom. Sleep
It's my
disturbances.
life's
And
work.
yes, insomnia, nightmares, difficulty falling or staying asleep, fatigue, like constant tiredness, lack of energy, chronic
Mhm.
pain,
Mhm.
unexplained aches and pains. Now, and see, a lot of people say, well, I'm just getting older. And, I wake up with something, might be dealing with stress, might be dealing with
Because
some other
what we've
effects.
learned is that trauma is stored in your body and you have to release it. That's why like yoga, somatic healing, breath work, and all of that stuff, you see a surge in that. Because we're learning that like trauma it gets in your DNA, like it's in your body and you have to get it out. And that's why everybody's always like, oh, did you read The Body Keeps Score? Because your body holds on to it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, yeah, as you just highlighted, you can't separate the mind and the body. I think we can talk about doing that. One affects the other tremendously. So that's why, staying healthy from a physical standpoint, like your health, what you're eating, your exercise, that helps the mind. And exercising your mind, learning how to relax or to meditate, getting
Mhm.
therapy or counseling for issues that happen also impacts your physical body, your physical health. So very important. And one they talked about that I came across was cardiovascular issues like increased heart rate and hypertension. Some people walking around like they got high blood pressure. You could probably get off that medicine if you get your mind right, so to speak.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, the next I think, is important. And we're looking for these things in ourselves, of course, but then we also should be looking, you might want to be looking at this for the people that you may be around, especially loved ones. If you're a parent, um, oh,
I
Miss Lynn,
disagree.
Miss Lynn, Miss Cheryl Jordan says, hey,
Hey, Miss Lynn.
yeah, y'all need
Hey.
to go check out last week's show, and you'll
Oh,
get a
she
treat
was
there.
great. She was
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, definitely need to have her back. But go ahead, Doc. You said you disagree.
Well, unless we're talking about my children or my spouse, it's not my responsibility to be looking for these signs in other people. Like we have to set that boundary. Because you'll know that somebody has issues, and it's so funny because people come to therapy and they be like, and I know my boyfriend need to come, or I know my girlfriend need to come, or I told my sister, you know what I mean? But unless those people show up for themselves, there's nothing you can do. And so for me,
Oh,
I don't
of course.
encourage people to say, look for these signs in other people. Absolutely not. Not unless it's your children or your spouse. Absolutely not. Because just hearing a list of symptoms or a list of signs, you're gonna see them because I told them to you. And now
Yeah,
it's
because
at
they
the
might, yeah,
forefront of your mind.
they
So
may
it's
be
just like if
perpetrated
I
for
say,
different things. Gotcha.
yeah, and if I say, don't think about pink elephants, everybody's thinking about pink elephants. You know what I mean? So I will be cautious with that. Hold on, we
That's
got some
good.
more comments. Let's catch up.
All right. All right. Miss Lynn says, mental health can affect physical health. Absolutely. We just
Yep.
covered that, Miss Lynn. And Miss Lynn has 30 years in the healthcare industry as a nurse. Um, I've seen her, diagnose and do the whole nine. So there's some validity there when she speaks. Definitely listen. And heredity is also a factor. She said you cannot change your heritage. So what about that, Doc? So you
Heredity?
can,
Yeah. Well, I said
yeah, you
earlier, like the trauma gets stored in your DNA.
you
I think it's
sure
the
just
study of
well, tie it up for us less academically
epigenetics.
inclined
That's
individuals.
I mean, she's absolutely right. Like, so when people come in and you do like an assessment, you ask what's your family history because you're at greater risk for struggling with or suffering with what your family struggled with.
I'm laughing because somebody is listening to this right now and they just heard it and they just did a quick view of their family. They was like, dang, I'm doomed. I ain't nothing, ain't
I
nothing
mean,
I
just
can
just
do.
think about how much you act like your parents, even when you don't want to. It is the craziest thing. I heard my husband have a conversation with his daddy, and I was like, he talking to
It was
himself. Like, what is
ah
happening?
ah
And
ah
I know that he
ah.
wasn't like, I
He wasn't
recognize
trying.
that
It wasn't on purpose.
no,
It was just
nobody was
yeah,
trying to. Yeah. So
yeah,
you
yeah.
can't, she's right. You cannot escape your heritage. It's
It's
there.
definitely yeah, man. Yeah. If I just had a moment, if y'all couldn't tell, I was just like,
We did. You want to share?
like
Say
that.
more about
Yeah, I
that.
mean, ah, no, it's just you think and you be like, okay. I'm gonna tell you what really came to mind because when I just made the statement, um, Jesus said a renewal of the mind is where change really began. So I was like, so I do have a way out of it. You got to renew the mind, and once you
Mhm.
renew the mind, it will impact the body. And there's evidence of that. That's a whole nother conversation where people have healed themselves with their mind. People can withstand things that really should maybe kill them, like being in extreme cold. They can survive it because of their mental fortitude. There's some documentation on monks who have, from a mental state, be able to change from a molecular
Mhm.
standpoint
Mhm.
elements about their body. It's been documented. I'm not here to argue. I'm just sharing the information. So don't be mad at me. Anyway, Ms. Shirley says people tend to want instant fixes. They've been smoking, drinking, and drugging for years, get diagnosed with a chronic issue, and want to take 2 pills for 2 days and be cured. She
If
didn't
that
send
ain't
it in there.
facts, I don't know what is. That is facts.
Let me guess,
Ooh.
Doc. They come in for 2 sessions and think they should be just 13 years of this problem and this issue, and I've been here twice, and I don't feel any different.
Man,
I don't know why I changed my voice.
I had somebody tell me this is just not working. I said it's not because you not working.
Because you
And
don't want to work. Mm,
they were like, what do you mean I'm coming? Y'all, coming to therapy is the first step. It's not the work. Like, coming to therapy is a step in the right direction. Please come, get you some help, find you somebody to talk to, amen, all the things. But the work is done outside of therapy. You're with you all the
mm,
time. You can't come see me for 1 hour and think it's gonna be fixed. And so when she said it's not working, I said, nah, because you're not working. And she said, what? So then I ran down a list of like homework, and I was like, when did you do these things? And when did you do them consistently? And
mm,
she was silent just like you was.
So how do you treat the trauma, Doc?
Okay,
And
well,
let me
that's
read
deep.
let me read
Yeah.
Cheryl's comment. She says trauma has already been done to the organs. Oh, in
Mhm.
yes. Um, Mr. Pastor Byron Handspot said, facts, evil communication corrupts good manners. First Corinthians 15:33. You can't ingest other issues or it will impact your mind.
That's true. So I gotta be careful what you take in. Diets is more than what you eat.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes,
so how do you
absolutely.
treat trauma? I think it has to be. Hold on, we got one more person.
Mr. Ben Sutter the third. Good evening
Good
to you,
evening,
sir.
sir.
And if y'all can Can't recognize. Mr. Ben Sutter III puts the BS3 into the BS3 network, which is the network in which perspective resides on. So anything with BS3 connected to it, we ask that you hit the like button. Definitely subscribe. That way you can stay in contact with us and get exposed to some of the other, I would say, ample and well done podcasts on the BS3 network. Um, and that you'd want to look through it a little bit. Definitely would be your environment. Definitely led by individuals cut from the same cloth as yourself. If you can read between the lines, you and uh, associate pastor Short. So yeah, it wouldn't be a bad place to check out. Some not so much. Some you would be like, oh, okay, that's what's up. Thank you, Ben. Go ahead, Doc. I'm sorry.
All right, so how do you treat the trauma? There's no cookie cutter way to treat trauma. I'm gonna throw out a bunch of things. I'm not gonna list all the things, but there's no cookie cutter way to treat trauma. The biggest thing is to have the individual create a new sense of safety, because trauma takes away your sense of safety, right? Then you're gonna go to therapy. You gotta go, you just have to. Then you're gonna get in touch with your higher power. For me, it's God. For you, it could be Allah, Buddha, Brother Rock, the ocean, the river, whoever it is for you. Get in touch with them. Then you're going to want to seek community support. There is nothing wrong with a survivors group. I encourage that. I encourage self-help. Now, not we get together and just ruminate over our trauma and we don't do no work and we just cry and then we just drink liquor after. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about self-help from a community standpoint, right? That's what I'm saying. And then you got to set some boundaries with yourself, with the people in your life. You got to get your boundaries in order. And then you're going to have to do some movement. I'm not saying you got to be a gladiator, but maybe you like yoga. Maybe you're a person who likes to take walks, but you have to move because that trauma and that stagnant energy gets stuck in your body. So that would be the overview. Obviously, each individual thing we could spend all day on, but that would be where I would start.
Talk, Doc. That's my co-host. That's my co-host. Whatever, man. Yeah, I did the research and she just hit them verbatim. I was like, well, let's talk about. She was like, I got it. This is how you're gonna attack it. Boom, 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 boom.
Well,
Still trap of a mind. Still trap of a mind. You know what I mean? Miss Cheryl Jordan said, sometimes you have to cut ties.
Cut them. Cut them. It ain't nothing to cut that off. It do be something to cut them off though, y'all. But just play that song. Like, that's your affirmation. And I be telling people, stop saying them affirmations that don't mean nothing to you. Like, if you are struggling with setting a boundary, play that song. It ain't nothing to cut that off. Because maybe that's your affirmation. It doesn't have to be, I'm powerful, I can cut them off. Like, if you don't resonate with that, you got to say something you resonate with.
I'm gonna say this. No, I'm gonna say this. Cutting people off is growth. Because those that if you've set your eyes or you've been convicted to move to a different plane, to walk in a different way, think with a new mind, once you go through a process of renewal, pruning is going to be it's going to be a part of the practice. And is it going to hurt? Yes. Think about what pruning is. It is the cutting away of certain things. If it's a plant, to use that as an analogy and an example, you're cutting off stems and branches. Does that hurt? Yes. But what it does is it's clearing space for other stronger branches to grow and to expand and become stronger, right? And you have to go through that. Ain't no easy way to do a hard thing, so you have to do it hard. And that pain is only temporary, but oh, how beautiful it will be once you get through that healing process. And now you have space for the strong branches to produce more, and it'll be either a beautiful flower or it's going to produce really good fruit. And that's what you want in the end. So don't be afraid to cut people, to step away from things that no longer serve you or not walking in the same direction. How can both of you walk in the same direction? At least you agree. And that ends up with that being equally yoked. And you just self and be honest with them. And I'm saying you can be polite about it, and then take your leave, and do that. And some people you walk with for a season, and then there's a time where you have to go your separate ways. That is okay. If you are there, own that, accept that, and walk into your better space and place. Miss Cheryl, Jordan says, "Calls home is a learning center." Absolutely.
And if you wasn't
Y'all,
here last week, you
last week
don't
you
get it.
missed it. You missed it. Yeah, y'all need to go check out last week's episode. Absolutely, absolutely. And I guess because these type of things are also things that, like, when we're learning, it's going to play a part in your home too. So absolutely, absolutely, Miss Lynn. Um, Doc, you kind of ran through my stuff. I really thought that was going to be something I could expound on and dig
You did a
into.
great
But let
job.
but let me ask you, cognitive behavioral therapy, like
CBT.
identifying and changing negative thought patterns. What is CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy?
CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, is all about understanding how your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors interact with each other to make you feel better or worse. So, CBT
Hmm.
wants to teach you how to identify negative or incorrect thought patterns so that you can behave differently so that you ultimately feel better.
That's what that counseling is for. You got to go in and get some
Yeah, because you don't
instruction.
know
Some
what you don't know.
right,
And
right.
so a lot of times we are walking around with layman terms, we are walking around with a negative belief system, and we have like this internal monologue or internal dialogue, I should say, that's negative, and a lot of the thoughts are just not correct. So after a trauma, one of the things that people may think is, I'm stupid, why did I let this happen to me, or I'm worthless, nobody's going to want me as a result of that. And that's just not true. So you come to therapy, we do some CBT, you learn different ways to think about it, and we move on. But CBT,
Mm,
while it is the most researched, I'm not always sure it is the best solo approach to treat trauma. Is it
okay.
helpful? Absolutely. Should we
So
use it? 100%.
so
But
let
I
me
think
let me
sometimes when
let
you
me
are,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was like, okay, because that was a segue. You was like, okay, that ain't, because there are some others, like some other therapeutic approaches that I dug up. I'm just saying, but you're obviously gonna just boop boop boop. You don't home run them
You can
all.
do it.
Exposure therapy.
Yes. So like let's say so let's say you were in a bad car accident and now you don't drive. Well, exposure therapy starts, it just depends on how big your fear is. It can be
Mm,
just go sit in the car.
mm,
Okay, drive around the block. We're going to keep exposing you to the thing that is triggering for you so that it loses its power. That's
like it.
cool too, but if somebody sexually assaulted you, I don't
Yeah,
know
I
that
know.
that works for that.
Yeah.
Now we could expose you to, like, if they took you from the mall, we could expose you to the mall, but that's tricky too.
Now it was a couple that came up. I was like, this don't even sound real or effective. And I said, and as I always do, let me ask Doc. But let me make a point because it won't go away. So when you were talking about the CBT,
Mm-hmm.
you say it can be effective, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you talked about how to do that, because we have to remember, because it just kept bringing back to my mind the effects. And when we talk about the effects of psychological trauma, one of them that was highlighted was the guilt and the shame. And an example you that constant recording in your mind. And so as a man thinketh, so is he. and
Mm-hmm.
and that's so powerful to think about that. And so having someone who can help guide that, or help it disrupt that record in your mind, and help
Mm-hmm.
put something else in there, and help you constantly come up with, like you said, a new mantra. And you gave a great example. Find a song that speaks to what you're really trying to do, how you really would like to feel, even if you're
Mm-hmm.
not feeling it at the moment, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
put that on repeat. Use that as a mantra. Put that in your prayer. Put that in your meditation. Put that in your speech, in your mental Rolodex. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm just wanted to share that with the people, because it'll help me. So what is
Hold on, read the comment and then you can do it.
okay? All right. Miss Lynn, Cheryl Jordan. She Miss Lynn. She says even survivors of trauma have remorse. They feel
Mm-hmm.
they didn't deserve to survive, and they have trauma from surviving trauma. That's
Especially military people. They like when
su-
like I have had so many
survivor's
people
remorse.
say,
Yeah,
yes, I've had so many people say I'm supposed to be over there with my brothers. Why? Like you want to get blowed up? I mean, I don't say that to them because that would be rude.
I was,
But
I
I would
was
never say
like,
that to them.
"Doc." Absolutely.
I would never say that to
Um,
them. But like when the very
but
first
for
time I
real,
heard it, I was like, huh? But once they explained to me like the brotherhood, the training, I guess indoctrination is a really good word for it, then I kind of had a better understanding.
yeah, I'll bring it on home from maybe a different from a different angle. We always see individuals who have an opportunity to, let's say, leave their neighborhood or expand outside of the space in which they were raised, either it
Hmm.
be by fame or fortune, but yet
Hmm.
they still go back and expose themselves to the same dangers and issues or whatnot. And it's that I think it's that same type of remorse. Like I made it, even if they made the decisions to maybe focus in school, or they were blessed with athletic abilities to get scholarship and then be exposed to something different, which led them in a different path. Um, and some are not strong enough to stay on that path when those that they grew up with or that they know, or somebody always talking about, "Ah, I'm gonna use this as an example. Only a few people know. I've been knowed you. Oh, what? Really? Okay. Why you talk like that? I've been
No,
knowed
why
you.
you talk like this?
Nah, yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, so those like that, cats that they hung with a certain group, broke away from that, but can't fully break away from it because they have remorse, and I think that's a level of trauma as well. But
Yeah, I think we
um,
see it with like rappers. Like
yeah,
you are famous. Why are you here? Like why are you on the corner? What's
yeah,
happening?
athletes too. Jay Morant, remember he kept why you want to be on video with the gun and you don't need the gun. You live in a gated community, brother. What
You
is going
probably
on?
have security at this point. What do we do?
Man, you know what I'm saying? Come on now. Come on.
Yes.
You got enough money to pay someone to carry the thing for you. For the security. We talked about exposure therapy, but another approach that came up was eye movement desensitization
Baby, that's the gold star.
and repro. Okay, come with it then. Let me know. It said, yeah,
EMDR. Yeah,
yes,
we won't be saying
EMDR,
all them words. We just say EMDR.
EMDR.
Eye movement, EMD, desensitization, reprocessing.
This woman here, still trapped.
And so first of all, it's like the golden star. Like it's like what everybody's doing now for trauma.
Yeah.
It costs a lot of money to get trained in it. I am not trained in it, but from what I understand, they do something with the lights and your eyes are literally moving, and they have you reprocess your trauma so that it is not as traumatic for you.
So using guided eye movements to
Mhm.
process traumatic memories.
Yeah, and I know several people who have done it and they like, girl, I would have still been in weekly therapy doing CBT. This is it. This is what you do. Like, and I know therapists who have done it for their own personal life. They like, yeah, I'm getting trained in this. This changed my life.
It changed their life,
Hmm.
but you say it's expensive.
To get trained in it, yes. And then there's all these like other like cultural things. Like, I don't, who are you to be telling? Like, I don't know. I want to take it from somebody who kind of looks like me.
I hear you. Tell the truth.
So,
Shame the enemy. So is it? Well, I'll talk about that offline.
is it
Um,
expensive to do? Yeah, because it's a specialty. So most people don't do it, and the people who do it probably
they
don't
gonna
take
charge.
insurance to do it.
Yeah, got you. Gonna
Yeah,
pay. Gonna pay. But I think it's worth it, man. When you know you can change your life and something
I
that's been
haven't.
holding you back and taking that fear and whatnot is it's worth it.
I haven't
What?
had heard anybody say like, "Oh, this is BS. It didn't work for me." And like the research
Wow.
studies that I've read, like it's the wave.
So what about TFCBT?
TFCBT, trauma
Trauma.
focused cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay, why? Because why do we have 45 initials? But anyway, trauma focused
Them yo
CBT.
people, man. Them yo people.
Because then I got to be like trauma dialectical, except like, okay, well, I got
No,
to
I
go
mean you
first
do
then.
it. Hey, listen, you do it great, man. The fact you pulling them out, I'm like, man, what kind of Rolodex she got? But go ahead.
So trauma focused CBT is just CBT, but only focused on the trauma. Like we're only focusing on the negative thoughts related to the trauma. It's just CBT, but it's more
Okay.
cognitive. It's more trauma informed, meaning like, so one of the things in CBT is we're going to challenge your negative thoughts. Well, if you got pulled over by the police and then they beat you up, and now you feel like all police are bad, who am I to say that's illogical? So with trauma focused CBT, we may not ask that question. We may go about it a different way because we understand that you experienced a trauma.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
And I couldn't say the word, but it's DBT.
Dialectical behavioral therapy, which was actually like fun fact. So the lady who created DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, her name
Mhm.
is Marsha Linehan. Marsha for sure, Linehan I might be sketch on, but Marsha for sure. So Marsha went to the East and studied like Buddhism and like
Mhm.
mindfulness and stuff like that. Brought it back over here
Mhm.
to the West, did her thing with it, and created DBT. So DBT is all about like emotion regulation, wise mind versus chaotic mind, radical
Okay.
acceptance. Radical acceptance is my absolute favorite thing, and it is really good with trauma too. Hmm.
Now you got to unload on radical
So she
acceptance.
was so Marsha Linehan, fun fact, suffers from, well, used to have borderline personality disorder, and she had
Wait a
been in
minute.
and out of treatment, and so she couldn't, like, they couldn't fix her. She couldn't
Hold
get
on.
it together, and so that's how she created DBT. And DBT works really, really good for people with borderline personality disorder. But obviously, it can be used for other stuff. You said I got to unpack radical acceptance. Radical acceptance is
I think I know
accepting
what
the
it is, but
situation. It's just a really cute way of saying it is what it is, but
yeah.
it just it's like accepting the situation for what it is, for the facts of the situation and not the emotion of the situation. Because in life you're going to have pain, but if you allow that pain to turn into suffering, suffering is a choice. So pain is happening, suffering is a choice. And so that's where radical acceptance comes in, but it's just a pretty way of saying it is what it is.
Absolutely, man. Sometimes you got to run into the storm. And what people don't realize, when you run into the storm, you get through the storm quicker than running away from it, because it's going to catch up with you. And then as you're running away from it, you're running in the storm and it just
Mhm.
stays with you longer. So face it, get to the end of it, let it go on by its way, because you're going in the opposite direction. Nevertheless, Doc, how much time we got? We almost
We
there.
got
Where
seven
we at?
minutes. Yeah, we got about 7 minutes.
Okay.
What's up? Was there another one that
So
came up? So ACT didn't come up.
come on with it, Doc. Nope.
Okay, so oh, and then like child. So ACT is acceptance and commitment therapy, but they don't. I don't. They don't want you to call it ACT. They want you to call it ACT. So that's my bad to the people who specialize in ACT.
Oh,
Well,
they
why
get
wouldn't I call
sensitive
it?
about
Oh, they do.
their acronyms.
They
Hold
do.
up, Doc.
But it's crazy because why wouldn't I call it ACT? Because it's CBT, DBT, EMDR.
I
Like, why
got
wouldn't I? For whatever.
yeah.
So, acceptance and commitment therapy is about accepting what has happened to you, accepting who you are, and then making the commitment to change your behaviors and live a life that's aligned with your values. So, it can be helpful with trauma because there's a concept called choice point in ACT. Yes, in ACT. It's called choice point. And so choice point is like something happens to you, you're triggered, and you have a choice to make. You can go left or you can go right. Them your only options. You can go towards the person you want to be, or you can go away from the person you want to be. So I can cuss you
Mhm.
out and go away from the person that I want to be because I want to be like a calm, kind person. Or I can disagree with you respectfully and go toward the person I want to be. So how that relates to trauma is like, okay, I'm bebopping through life. I get triggered by my trauma. Do I run and hide, or do I face the trauma, breathe through it, use my skills, and go toward the person I want to be? So I was surprised that ACT didn't come up for you. Excuse me, ACT.
You got to get that right. I don't want us having to fight a gang
I know.
Yeah, we saw perspective,
We saw what
and
you had said.
apparently act ain't good enough, and we keep getting called ACT.
Yeah, no, for real, it's a
Man, we're
thing.
gonna have to get that work, man. We out there fighting.
Yeah, it's a thing.
No, as we wrap up and we go into the final things, just talking about like the healing and recovery. So we talked about a lot of great points. So I would encourage everyone um to share this, and a few notes I wrote as we were going through this, that kept hitting my mind is one, because I'm an advocate of resilience, because I am the president of Resilient University, spelled with a Z instead of a S.
Mm,
So building resilience, like developing those coping skills and
mhm,
fostering a positive outlook, like Doc was saying, is sometimes it is what it is, and you have to find a way to, one, face it, also learn how to carve things out so that you can cope with what you understood and develop the skills to do so. Um, Stay in therapy, stay in counseling. So make it ongoing. Get that support. Doc said it is okay to join groups and have support groups and be in environments where you can get support. And then as we went through ACT and
mhm.
the and the other acronyms, be creative in whatever help that you seek. So be creative in that. Like, I wouldn't have thought about, um, ACT as one, or the DBT as something, and most importantly, the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or EMDR, as Doc says we need to call it. So that was really interesting. So, be creative about the counseling and therapy that you get. Like, and that could be art, music, drama, the type of therapy you get, and the way you express emotions. Find different ways, and then just developing or training yourself to cope with what what you come to discover are your pinging points, or the trauma that you had. Like, if you know what being in high stress environments, or even a profession, and really learning how to manage um, that type of trauma. So, did I miss anything? Those are just my
No,
thoughts
that was
on.
good.
And then, got to be patient, got to be bold, um, and you can't let and don't let anything stop you from getting back to life, is what I would say,
Mm.
or my synopsis on the healing and recovery.
I also tell people go take a self defense class because maybe you
Mm,
need to learn how to
say more
fight.
about that.
Now, obviously, you can't fight guns, and I'm not saying like, oh, my therapist said
Who
take a self
says
defense
who?
class, and they got a gun. I'm all, no, I ain't saying all that.
Who
But
said
take a self
what?
defense class so that you feel better going out in public by yourself. Like what? So, and then people have to define safety for themselves, and like whatever it is that you need to feel safe, go get it. Go get a gun permit if that's what you need. Like, now make sure your mental health is in check. Don't be out here. You stepped on my foot. Pow pow. Don't do that. Don't do that. But whatever you need
That's
to
so
feel
serious,
like,
but I was trying to hold my laugh. But that's real. It's people who are snapping, doing things for
no, for real. Like
the
some people
most
don't need them.
simple, and it's
Yeah.
unnecessary, the scuffing of your shoe, accidentally getting bumped into, has really changed the course of many people's lives, because their trauma has not been addressed, to any degree. And so Doc say we're not supposed to be looking for that in other people. So
Mm-mm.
don't do that. I would lean on her understanding on that, because if people are having those issues, they really have to identify it themselves. I'm gonna be honest, y'all. If I see some, let me throw a couple of hints. Let me pull out my notes. Let me pull back up. I remember we had that show. That looks a little bit. You need some eye. You need some eye therapy. That's what I would call it. You need some.
What's so down with you?
Say, man, we need to get you in a reverse sunken place. We need to get you in a high place. Instead of tea, we use coffee, and then you go to other doctors. Okay, I'm gonna stop playing because this is not a joke.
It's
But
not.
to end the show on a very serious note, Doc, any other places they should contact? Um, are you open? You did say, hey, contact you, email you, message you, and you can
Yeah,
connect
they can do that.
people with the resources and information they would need. Um, Doc, thank you, man. I appreciate you sharing your skills and your knowledge and your wisdom in this area. Thank you to our viewers, the comments that you use. This is I'm gonna tell you, take an opportunity, go to the BS3 Network, look up some of our past shows. We really do have a plethora and a wealth of knowledge and information that is shared that I think can be very helpful for individuals. If it's not to you, then send it to someone else, and it may not even be them. It may be the man or woman next to the man or the woman next to the man or the woman, and that is how that works. And we really are looking to help individuals. So in the support we only ask for is of the BS3 Network, and then for perspective is, man, hit the like button. That's all you got. Just hit the like button. If you loved it, hit the heart. If it was something funny, hit the laugh button. Um, Doc always says as well. She says, yes, that matters, and that affects our algorithm, and yes, it is important. So definitely gift us that if you would, and I promise you, it doesn't go unnoticed or unappreciated in that regard. So, with that said, I thank you all. We love you for being here. We appreciate you for being here. And I'll let Doc have the last minute of comments before we go.
Thank you so much for being here. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend, and tell a friend to tell a whole other friend. And we will do this again next week. Take care of you and your peace. Have a good
Indeed.
one.
Bye bye.